Hello and welcome to today's Women in Tech Canada webinar. It's not our first webinar, but I am really delighted to have all of you, with us today for a conversation that will resonate with so many women I know at different stages in their career. So the subject is consultant or employee, which path fits you best? At Women in Tech, our goal is to create spaces where women can really reflect, can grow, and connect through real experiences and, of course, honest conversation. So, for those who are new to Women in Tech, we are a global organization present in more than 65 countries, and we work to advance women and girls in the STEM worldwide. Here in Canada, our community is growing and is powered by more than, if I'm not mistaken, 40 dedicated volunteers across all provinces. And we do have a signature event. I'm sure you heard about it, the Women in Tech North America Awards. So it's coming to Montreal on September 9th. And actually, the nominations are open until early July. And the tickets for both the symposium in the morning and the award ceremony will be available soon. And I know that our dear colleague Oriane will be publishing the link on our in the chat for whoever is interested to visit our website. So today we are diving into a topic that it's not only about choosing the right path, it's more about understanding each of us our own path. And I want to just position a bit or frame our discussion about the Canadian landscape. I know that, and I saw it, that 15 to 20% of women in tech work as consultant. They work as freelancers or independent professional. And this is based on a combined insight from Statistics Canada. And means the majority, around 80%, are still in traditional employee roles. But I know that, and I was reading a lot and seeing lots of videos about it, that this trend is shifting. So independent tech work is growing twice as fast as employment and employment with salaries, and the increase of women entering consulting is between 45 to 55%, like up to 35% in the last decade. So the future of work points toward a more consulting, fractional leadership, and even specialized service-based role, especially amongst women seeking flexibility, autonomy, and stuff like this. So again, today is not about choosing sides, it's about understanding and the realities, the motivation, and the opportunities behind each of the passes. So that's why we have you with us today, Gurbir. And I want to introduce the human behind today's conversation. And I am very happy and very honored because we had a short conversation at one point, and I was really amazed by the scale of knowledge you have. And I know that each consultant, each person has a story, each employee also has a journey, and you have lived both. And I know that what you're gonna give today is an experience that is rich, that is authentic and really grounded in real life transition. So you are a seasoned leader. You are known for driving transformational initiative across multiple industries, and you specialize in strategic portfolio, program and project management, organizational change management, and building mature IT management system. And by looking at your LinkedIn, Gurbir, you have supported strong business intelligence, strong business, organization. Like I can name a few, like Loblaws, Target, Home Depot, Air Canada, TD, and many others. So I'll stop here, Gurbir, because I would love for you to introduce yourself, to tell us more about your professional journey, but also about your journey as a woman in tech. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Roula, first and foremost, for giving me the opportunity to be here. Also to Women in Tech, an amazing organization. And lastly, to all of the folks that have taken their personal time out to register and attend and listen to us having this conversation. I really like that you talked about authenticity and just, what this is going to hopefully bring to the folks that are listening. So, as you have asked, my name is Gurbir Mahl, and I am someone who is always seeking out for learning. Who am I from a personal perspective? I am a mother of two, as I call them, babies, but they are actually in university. But for those of us that are mothers, we know we always have the little babies in our heart.
Yeah.
And those are literally my pride and joy. And one of the main motivations as to what I do professionally and to be able to support my family and my core and give them an example of what can be done. My journey in terms of coming into this world that I'm in right now, based on the history that I've had, born and raised in Toronto, so a very, very proud Canadian. Love this country. It is just beautiful. It's diverse. Proud child of an immigrant, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are on the call. And that also gives you a very different work ethic. It also gives you a little bit of a different understanding of a filter of just resilience, struggle, and driving for results, and really wanting to do better because of the sacrifices of potentially the generations before you. So my journey started off into delving into this consultant world. And what I want to say is before we start talking about this, when I refer to an independent consultant or a contractor, two terms which I'll use exchange throughout this conversation, an independent consultant is somebody that is self-employed. So when I speak, I'm not referring to the consultants that may work for the bigger firms, may be part of bigger organizations. These are truly folks that are self-employed, they have their own companies, and they are independent and agnostic of the companies that they work for. My journey started by accident, actually. So back in around 2015, I was a mother of two back then young children, recently divorced, and the company that I worked for decided to leave Canada. It was a very sudden decision, a very decision that gave me a lot of anxiety because it was something that I wasn't prepared for. All of us on this webinar know that financial security and understanding that we are stable is critical to all of us for many different reasons. So with the life stage that I was in then, it was something that gave me a lot of anxiety. I was really concerned. I didn't know what I had to do next. I had mouths to feed as a single mother, and my family had recommended, oh, you should try independent consulting. And immediately I said, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. How could I do that? Imposter syndrome set right in. And they're like, why not? I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know if I'm good enough. Second of all, it's not secure. And they're like, well, how secure was your full-time role that just ended and the company left? So I said, touche, literally had nothing to lose. And I said, okay, I'm going to try it. So I had my first gig, as we call it, or contract, and it was with the British Columbia Liquor Board, and just to help them out with some of their executive projects that they had. And I enjoyed it. People actually wanted to listen to what I said and what I learned and what I knew. And I say that because it's interesting. A lot of us don't take the time to look over our shoulder and congratulate ourselves for all the work we've done, for all the learnings, for all the journeys we've conquered. And it's only when you're, in my opinion, when you're updating your resume or telling somebody what you do, I find that I actually surprise myself because you don't take the time to reflect and realize, wow, I really do know a lot, not just me, but all of us. We actually do. And we have to be more purposeful to reflect on that. So that was my first intro into independent consulting, and it was scary. It was a lot. It was very different than the corporate world for me. I had to set up a company. I had to worry about paying my own taxes, savings, but it was all accomplishable. It wasn't rocket science. I just had to get over the hump of my insecurities, my imposter syndrome, put my shoulders back and be like, what do I have to lose? The full-time company I already worked for is gone. I could always find another job. Let's try it. So long story short, that was back in 2015. I have never looked back. I have always really enjoyed the challenges, really enjoyed the diversity, really enjoyed the gray areas that I've worked in. And that has led me to work for many different industries, as you had mentioned, whether it's financial services, government, working in aviation. And it's been an eye-opening experience. You learn along the way. All of us are continuous learners, and you build that into your own toolbox that you then carry on, whether you're a consultant or working in corporate, to your next role. And then you give back with it. So it's been something that's been great. It's really put me out of my comfort zone, which has built my resilience. But I'm very excited to kind of talk today with you and kind of share some of my very humble learnings. And hopefully others can maybe learn or gain some insights from it.
Uh, for sure, Gurbir. I am sure that we're gonna deep dive more in everything that you have said, and it's really inspirational. Like we're starting very strong because you gave us a beautiful, how we say, a view of who are you, how did you start, where are you now, and now we want to tackle more about this subject. So, and I want to thank you for defining what is consultant, what is employee, and so so from my understanding, there's no right or wrong from what you are saying, and it's just different realities for the people. And which bring me to my question: why do people choose one path over the other? Why
Yeah.
what truly drives these choices?
So I think that's a great question, Rula. What I would say is that there is no defined recipe or path that works for me that I can say, Rula, here it is. Here's the secret recipe. You must do it this way. It's accumulation of everyone's personal and professional journeys and what stage of life they're in. A new grad who's 25 that may still have the opportunity to live at home and not have the financial obligations somebody maybe my age has, may have a different risk tolerance, may have different career goals, and want to explore many different things. So I think to choose the path, there has to be some purposeful reflection, or like me, you just kind of get thrown into it to say what matters to you, agnostic of if it's a corporate career or a consulting career. Is it financial stability? Is it expanding your industry knowledge of different industries? Is it really building your brand? And is it maybe exploring that entrepreneurial spirit that we all have? And I think those are some of the elements that people need to think about, along with your risk tolerance, right? Somebody whose children have potentially graduated and are no longer dependent on them versus somebody who just started a new family will have different risk tolerances in terms of their ability to take financial risks, their ability to maybe move jobs. And I think family obligations, long-term goals, all of those have to go into consideration when deciding the path. The other thing I'll say is whether you choose corporate or you choose consulting, that's not the end game. You can flip back and forth as many times as you want. You are not stuck or married or anchored to one of them when you make your decision. It's very fluid, it's very flexible, and that's the beauty of it. So there's no right path, I would say, but there are considerations for those that may want to make the switch from one or the other to really look at what's important to them, what brings them value, and what do they need in order to, frankly, live and survive and be able to do what they want to do that makes them happy. A lot of people in this world work to live. And a lot of people live to work, and that's not right or wrong. It's just based on their personal obligations, their personal goals, and what they need to do uh, to kind of live in this world.
Again, you are reassuring everybody that there's no right or wrong. or no, how we say, a solution, magic
Yeah.
solution for a career path. And I love, and I'm gonna re-emphasize about it, like you can be an employee, then go back consultant, then go back employee. So it depends on your needs, your stage of life.
Yeah.
And so so let's go more deeper in that. Like we know that that this transition could happen randomly, or you could be forced to make a transition. And sometimes I hear a lot from women around me that sometimes they feel stuck despite doing everything right. And I always tell them it's not about a personal failure. Sometimes it's a structure. Sometimes is what you want. So there is signals that drive you, or drive you to make the change. So from your own perspective, Gurbir, what do you see most often in women you work with? What are those signals that spark such a change? Let us know. What's your experience tells you about the signals?
So first and foremost, I think any time I get to work with females, it gives me great joy just because it just shows how much you have so many examples, and when you get to see them of how many have thrived, how many have taken risks, how many have battled some traditional corporate norms and values to really succeed. We've all heard about breaking the glass ceiling, but there's so many other ways women have conquered, and it is just so empowering. It is so empowering to be in that energy and be with them. I think some of the things that I've seen, whether it's in myself or some of my colleagues and peers who are women that want to make a change, is sometimes it's life, right? Sometimes they have realized that maybe when they were 25 or 30, they want to end goal is be a CEO, be corporate leader, be an executive, and that is great. That is an amazing thing to be. I think as you go through that journey, your knowledge, your tolerance, your toolbox expands, and you naturally then build a confidence through the many journeys around the sun to realize I know a lot, I have a lot to offer. Maybe I don't, as you said, Roula, want to be in the traditional construct of the corporate ladder, but offer the same value in a different way. And then they choose or dabble in independent consulting so that they can sit with the same leaders. They can provide the same thought leadership and thought partnership. And when the program or the project is done, they leave and do it all over again with somebody else. And that then feeds them from a professional soul, I think, more intensely than maybe the traditional corporate ladder, because they've been there, done that. And now that they're approaching the closeness to that, they realize it's not maybe what they wanted. And there's other avenues that probably weren't open to them before. And with the knowledge and the ideas that they've gained and the toolbox that they've grown, literally the sky is their only limit to be able to navigate in the corporate world, whether it's as a leader or as an independent consultant. Oh, I think we've lost your audio. Can you hear me? I can't hear you anymore.
Do you hear me now?
And now I hear you now. Yep.
Perfect. And I
Yeah.
was saying that you are totally right, Gurbir, that and I would add that these changes sometimes they trigger also some confusion about it allows you to do more reflection. You might be asking some identity questions, and it's very normal. Means you are growing. Means uh, because sometimes this moment of reflection could be a strategic repositioning for each one of us. So I wanna, before I move to the next question, I wanna encourage everyone to send us their questions by written, and we'll be pleased to answer them as we go, as we move along. There is this question about Gurbir, about the challenges and the benefits from each of the paths. um, I what it is like for a consultant, what it is for an employee, and how can women and men navigate these challenges without burning out. So tell us about your experience, Kirby.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, if we look at the traditional corporate construct, which is great, it's amazing. I am definitely not anti-corporate because those are all my amazing clients. There's a lot of good advantages. Working for a company or a corporation, you get stability, you get predictable income. You get the opportunity to have key benefits, which are very, very important, whether it comes in retirement savings matching, share options, medical benefits, right? There's health benefits. There's a lot of amazing benefits that corporations offer that are very well used by a lot of folks and their families. You also have a very purposeful and structured career path. So you are guided, you're not by yourself. There's mentoring, there's coaching available. You have a set network that you can leverage if you choose to within a corporation. And it's all set there because they want to invest in their employees. They see intellectual capital, that's something of value. And that's something that's great. And I think all of those things really add value as to why ideally certain folks stay or make the decision to be in corporate because they're very valid. I would say some of the opportunities, if you're feeling a little uneasy, as you had said, Rula, with regards to, I don't know if it's time for a change or if this is right for me, is, people sometimes struggle with maybe not having as much of a higher potential for learning and for learning and earning, right? They want to maybe get a bit of a higher earning potential and learning potential. They want a little bit more flexibility in what they get to do, whether it's the scope of projects or the scope of work they get to do. Sometimes you don't necessarily get that in that construct. I think also you also don't necessarily have as much of a gas pedal acceleration on your professional growth as you do when you move into independent consulting. And now that we're talking about independent consulting, what are some of the advantages on that side? You get to choose your clients, you get to choose your projects, you get to choose when you want to work, you get to choose how much you want to work. And that really bodes well for certain colleagues that I have because they will take contracts, they will end their contracts, and they will take 4 to 5 months off because they want to travel. They want to be there with their children, their spouse, their families, help aging parents, what have you. They then take off blocks of time, finish their contracts before they start their next contract so they can have a personal journey. Um, it gives you a lot more exposure into different industries and different organizations, right? So, myself alone, I've got to work in financial services, in government. I've got to work in aviation. I've got to work, in so many different industries in retail. And you get exposure to different types of organizations and how they work. Um, that is all great, but there's also opportunities in independent consulting, and that's where your risk tolerance falls into play. You are your own CEO, your own business development person, you're your own secretary, janitor, you're your own everything here. You have to invest in yourself. You have to find the mentorships out there. You have to buy your own health benefits. You have to be purposeful to make sure that you save for retirement and you are not guaranteed contract after one after the other. You have to save for a rainy day. You have to make sure that you have enough padding in your financial portfolio so that, God forbid, there is a lag between contracts, that it isn't causing any grief or anxiety. I think the best example we can give from an independent consulting perspective is when the pandemic hit. When you're an independent consultant, you're typically associated from a pay perspective to a project, a budget, you're considered an external cost. You're brought in because you're flexible and you're the first to go. Not in a bad way, but that's why you're considered augmented staff. So the minute COVID hit, all external contractors and industries were the first to let go for reasonable reasons because there was a lot of uncertainty. There had to be cost savings. And those consultants needed to make sure that they had those savings for that rainy day. And I also think that, finding your next contract is your responsibility. So it's consistent and constant networking and putting yourself out there. And that's where we go back to that conversation of what is your risk tolerance? What do you want to do? And some people just don't want that. Autonomy and other people thrive on it. So I would say those are the kind of the two sides of corporate versus independent consulting that I've experienced. And again, none is right, none is wrong. It matters to what resonates to you as an individual and as a strong woman.
This is great. And you were talking about all this, and I was thinking, okay, can we in that case define a, personality characteristic for someone who is in the consulting industry or as an employer? So tell me, is there anything that you can highlight from a personality trait for one or the other?
So I am not going to compare, but I would say what I've seen works best in the industry I'm in, which is independent consulting, is you have to be resilient. You have to be adaptable. You need to have a drive for results. You also, and I'm smiling at this because I always have challenges with this, you also have to make sure that you don't necessarily fall in love with your client. What do I mean by that? I mean, because that culture is yours for a limited amount of time. If you choose to stay an independent, you are the contractor or consultant coming in. So you're not necessarily involved with all the benefits and all the great stuff that the employees get. And you have to be able to make sure that you're there agnostically as a thought leader and a thought partner. A lot of times when you come into an organization, a lot of people feel, oh, okay, this person, Gurbir's here, and we don't know what this means. And I make it very clear to my full-time peers or the people that I'm working with is I'm here to do a job. I'm not here to get a promotion because I've chosen that. I'm not here to climb your corporate ladder or take away your opportunities. My entire goal and definition of success is if I have helped you guys get better, you guys deliver what you need to do, and then I leave. And I'm here to serve you in the best way possible with the knowledge and the tools that I've gained so that you guys are set up for success because that's why you brought me in here.
This is great because it sets like being honest and at the same time set expectation from the
Yeah.
beginning. It allows a more transparent collaboration and more collaborative as well, and you don't feel like a competition. As you said, it doesn't mean that at the end sometimes they're gonna fall in love with your work and
Yeah.
they might ask you to remain as as an employee. We do have a couple of questions. Maybe I'll advance one or two before we move on with our questions. So let's move to one of the Q&A. Okay, so what did you learn transitioning from employee to consultant that helped you to move forward? What do you wish 11 years in that you
Yeah.
had learned sooner?
A great question. Trust yourself, squash the imposter syndrome. Consultant for certain people just sounds like they're much smarter and they know more and they're more organized. We all are much smarter. We all know more. Give ourselves the grace that we give others and trust in yourself like you trust in others that help you. I wish I had that self-confidence back then. And I understand it's a journey and 2020 is hindsight. Everyone has it in them. We just, as I had said previously, we just don't pause and reflect and look over our shoulder to see how much we've actually done. And that's why we as independents get hired just because we have the experience. We're allowed to, we come in and hit the ground running. So I would say that would be probably my biggest advice is number one, trust in yourself and have that self-confidence. Make sure it's unwavering because you're your best advocate, you're your best champion, you're your best fan, and also be true to what you want in life. If you do this just because you think it's going to be a sexier job, a better job, you will fail. You need to understand what works best for what you are, what your stage is, and what you want to get out of it. And then I promise the rest will come.
This is great. And we have another question that a bit relate to this. So in general, these are your advices. And what about an advice or a top piece of advice for young professionals who are looking to advance their career and climb the corporate ladder? You've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say a couple of things, right? So so I think this question was just overall professional career, agnostic
Yeah.
of it being corporate or consulting is network. So what does network mean? Network means having a coffee with someone. Network means joining purposeful organizations like Women in Tech Canada, right? You have to put yourself out there to showcase whom you are. A lot of people are a little hesitant to, as a young professional, to reach out to a leader, to book a coffee chat with them. And I promise you, as somebody who has a lot more journeys around the sun, people sincerely love to talk about what they do. They glow with passion. Pick their brains, get insights, because that is a fun conversation to have, and people like that. There are a lot of opportunities where you can network. You just have to put your hand up and show that you're interested. I think the other thing is be intentional. And I always say this to my teams. What do you want people to know you for? And there's no wrong answer. What are you 3 words that you want people, if we say, hey, what do you think about Gurbir? For me, what's really, really important is I want to be seen as someone who's trusted. I want to be seen someone who's a thought partner and someone who's authentic. Those are my core. Those are critical to me professionally and personally. But play that exercise, right? So ask people, how do they see you? And does that align with how you want to be seen? And be purposeful about working about your brand and just get out there, right? You have to take these beautiful little risks and networking opportunities because there's so much fruit that's going to come out of that labor. Sometimes networking feels like it's speed dating. I get it. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes life comes in the way. I would be the first to say sometimes I get a little tired, but I promise you, I always look back and be like, I am so glad I did that. I got so rejuvenated. I got to meet so many different people, build so many new connections. All of that matters. So I would say get out there and just present yourself in a very authentic way.
So find time to connect and to
Yeah.
network.
Yeah.
Like make time in your calendar. It's very important in order to position, brand yourself, and move forward, especially in the consulting and even in the corporate uh, environment. So we do have lots of questions. What about if we continue?
Sure.
Because I want to prioritize the audience questions. You're okay with that,
I
Kirby?
am so okay with that. That's
I know
great.
we didn't finish our conversation, but these are as much as important. And so I have a question about where do you get the business and how do you know what to charge? Like we're going more now
Yeah.
in practical, concrete questions.
Great question. So I'd say let's talk about the business side first. Where do you get the business? So first and foremost is the networking, right? Like you have to make sure that you let people know you're interested in a consulting opportunity or you're looking or you're building your brand. Then people keep you top of mind when those come about. And you have to be clear of what you are willing to consult in. If you say, hi, Roula, it's Gurbir. Hey, Gurbir, what are you interested in? Strategy. That means nothing. You have to be purposeful of what is your value statement? What are your core competencies? I support anything to do with program management office, anything that is going to support organizations deliver transformational programs. It is very clear cut. I don't code. I don't do all the other stuff. I stay in my box, and it's a beautiful box because it really helps folks that hire me be on time, deliver what their value is in their business plans, and make sure that we get that transformation completed. So be aware of what you want to consult in and be purposeful about that. The other thing is, there is a lot of agencies out there who specialize in supporting organizations with augmented staff. Augmented staff includes independent consultants. So that means that a big corporation is not going to search for their independents by themselves. They've hired and have master services agreements with certain big companies. Procom's one of them. There's a lot of big ones who are consistently looking for independents in augmented staff to help big clients of theirs, whether they're the banks, whether they're government, in very different roles. So I would say build profiles with them, send your resume with them. They're always willing to add to their roster of potential candidates because they get value out of that. And then the last thing in terms of rate is that is a mix of the role that you want to be. So are you a business analyst? Are you a developer? Are you a program manager? Are you a project control officer? Are you a junior PM? There's typical rate ranges that are bound against those roles. And then there's really, really, really niche roles that only a few people know how to do, and it's specialized coding. And that's where you can kind of see what the industry trends are, but also the agencies are more than knowledgeable to show you what those rate ranges are to help you understand. And obviously, as you grow in your career, you get the knowledge, you build your toolbox, you naturally start increasing your rate to qualify your experience and what you can offer. Sometimes, and if it's your first gig into consulting, for 6 months, people will take a lower rate because they want to get their foot in their door. They want to build their brand. And you have to be able to make those sacrifices from a financial perspective initially, not all the time, to be able to show them just how great you are and what you want to do.
These are great tips, Gurbir. Thank you for sharing them with the audience. And I think this question is a follow up, like a continuity of what you just said about as a consultant, how do you define the type of contract or project that fit better your expertise? And often our the participant is saying that often the description or the needs of the client might be different in reality than how they were described earlier. And we do know sometimes when you find a description about the responsibility, and sometimes you speak with the people, there's a different thing between what is written and what's the
Yeah.
reality. So tell us about what do you recommend
Yeah,
for this?
that's actually a really good question. So I'm going to say a couple of things that might sound controversial. Do clients purposely mislead us when they give us job descriptions and then make us do other stuff as independents? I would say no. They just don't know what they don't know yet, because typically it's the start of a program, it's the start of a project, it's pre-planning. They have a vision, but they don't have the experts like us to come in and tell them what they need. So there is always variance, unless you're a very specified coder or doing some stuff like that, between what the job description is going to be and what you're going to do. This is where, when I spoke about some of the traits you need to have, this is where you need to decide if you're resilient and adaptable enough to do so. At the end of the day, and this is maybe the controversial part of what I'm going to say, is you are hired as an independent consultant that's being paid an hourly rate. They can literally ask you to do anything for that hourly rate. Not that they will, but you have to see what your flexibility tolerance looks like. In my roles, in addition to my PMO box, I have done other things, provided thought leadership, help with coaching and mentoring, but I'm okay with all of that stuff because I want to do that stuff. I thrive in that stuff. So I think it's up to what your tolerance is versus what you're willing to accept, and what is going to still be okay within the rate range that you've given that you're willing to support. I will say, when you show flexibility, when you show resilience, when you expand out of that job description, people recognize it and they see you as a valued asset because you're being a thought partner and you're helping them. You're rolling up your sleeves and you're like, okay, we've got this. Let's do this. And they see the true value versus somebody saying, wasn't in my job description. Sorry, you only hired me for this. Because I don't think it's intentionally done. I just think they don't know what they don't know. There's a lot of known unknowns that we have to help them get to resolution on.
This is a great answer, Gurbir. You're totally right with that. And which bring me to my to another question about uh, because we were talking about paying paid by hour, and this question is: are you usually doing one contract with one client full time, or do you have more than one and work part time at more than one client at a time? So, what are the pros and the cons also? Which do you prefer? So, are you full time or do you do part time, multiple projects?
Wow, these are really good questions. So
Yeah.
my personal preference is to do one client, one contract at a time, personally, because I like to invest my all in them, and the work that I do, because they're such big transformational programs. I can't do mini contracts, not that those don't exist, just because it's a lot of beautiful work and a lot of scope that typically expands. So I want to be available to really give my all to that one client at a full-time contract rate. In saying that, there is a lot of now increase in the industry of fractional consultants and fractional leadership. So what does fractional mean? Fractional literally means part-time expertise for organizations where a consultant or an executive takes a bunch of fractional contracts and they work part-time in them. Why is that something that's growing? Typically, some companies cannot hire that person at a 40-hour contract. They cannot hire them at a full-time because it's just too expensive. So they'll hire them at a smaller rate and have them hit the ground running with some core capabilities or problems they need support in. And this also then gives the fractional consultant or executive the ability to also have other clients where they can do the same. So I would say it's a personal choice. I tend to lean towards the full-time. I feel I just do better work that way in terms of full-time contract for 40 hours a week, whatnot. But the rise in fractional contracts, fractional executives is on the rise because it's a benefit to both sides. It gives flexibility, it's a lower cost for the client, and a higher earning potential for the fractional consultant because the sky's the limit in how much sleep they want and how many hours that they want to work.
Okay, thank you for this answer, but also for talking about the future of work. And so after all, this shift towards consulting and fractional leadership, as you said, is not a buzzword. It's really a change that is more and more companies operating today. Thank you very much for bringing that to light, Gurbir. So let's continue with our questions. I have one here that is interesting. It's about how you keep up with the ever evolving trends in your industry while your daily job, current project might take you in different direction.
So this is where when I first spoke about the differences between, corporate and consulting, you have to make the time. We talked about networking, continuous education and improvement. That doesn't mean you go back and get another 4-year degree or your third master's. The beauty of the world we live in right now is there's a lot of quick learning. I'm going to give a very, very good example that I leverage a lot is everybody has LinkedIn. Independent consultants have LinkedIn Premium, which costs you a rate on a monthly basis, but that cost is an investment. There's a couple of reasons there's value in LinkedIn Premium. You can increase your networking capabilities because you're allowed in-mail credits. You're allowed to directly email people. If you're applying for a job, you see the statistics of where you are based on qualifications. But there's also LinkedIn Learning. And those are free courses with your LinkedIn Premium account. And I don't get a commission for this. This is just strictly me as an end user, where you can do continuous learning because we, on the independent side, don't have trainings that are offered by the corporations. We don't have things. So do I need to learn more about AI? 1,000%. Do I need to understand what the new trends are in project management? Because that's my scope. Absolutely. There's no such thing as pure agile, I believe, or pure waterfall. There's hybrid. What's the best? Where does one work better than the other? You have to make the time to make sure that you're purposeful of investing in yourself in continuous in learning. My current client is a 3.5-hour plane ride from my house. So that is 3.5 hours every time that I can use to leverage finishing off my emails, which I do as well, or reading articles, understanding what some of the quick, trends are. And you can also, I would say, just whether you have social media or Instagram or just daily newsletters, you can subscribe to so many one-page quick bullets on a daily basis where you can just read on the go to see what piques your interest that you want to further deep down. Easier said than done. A lot of us have personal lives, have offspring, have other things we need to do, but this is where you have to be purposeful about doing that a couple of times a week, a month. And it's not a race, it's just a journey of what's important to you.
Thank you very much, Gurbir. And beside like looking for resources that surround you and you use them on a daily basis, also as an employee, most of the companies they have their own, how we say, learning resources as well that you can look at that provide you with the latest in your industry, latest trend and learning in your industry. So I have a question and a comment from Adrienne. How are you, Adrienne? And she's saying, Gurbir, that this is a great conversation and very timely. And she's asking a question as someone who recently set up an LLC due mostly to organizations and surplus at her previous company. She did so as a way to create more opportunity for employment. So she wants an advice on how to get our foot in the door to find independent consulting gigs, especially if you are pivoting from government consulting and excited about the opportunity you mentioned about exposure to different industry, also an empty nester, so excited to travel more too. So in summary, Adrienne is asking how we can create more opportunity for employment.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations on setting up your incorporation. That's always a very big and amazing milestone. So I think we've talked a little bit about this before, right? So the first one is just the networking, getting yourself out there and letting people know, whether it's through LinkedIn Premium, through Women in Tech Canada, but just like being purposeful about networking. But as I had said, is also there's so many agencies out there that specialize. They're almost like matchmakers. They specialize in bringing the independent consultants to the clients that are looking for jobs. You mentioned that you are in government or you did government consulting. Governments, as you would know, do a lot of independent consultant hires as well as augmented staff. And I would say that's another opportunity that's really valuable is to go through directly an agency and kind of reach out to them and share your profile with them and have yourself set up with them. And then secondly is just your existing government contacts, right? Like just say, hey, I'm thinking of making the shift. They know you, they know your brand. And you'd be surprised how many people will understand that there is an opportunity for you as an independent. And that goes back into the whole networking, right? Just making sure that people are aware of what your intentions are and what you want to do next in your career.
Yeah, and you're totally right about you'll need to say what you want.
Yeah.
Do not think that people knows what you want. So it's very important to knock on doors, to follow up. So think open to you. There is a question here about um, it's a challenge, but it's a beautiful challenge, I can say. Uh, this they're asking, I have experienced a challenge in my first stint as a consultant in having more client that I can handle and having my profitability stuck to the number of hours I have in a week. So does this happen to you, Gurbir? And you have people you work with in those instances. Did you ever think of creating your own agency? It reminded me a question I asked you as well.
Yes, and yes. What a beautiful challenge you have. That's great. I actually have created my own agency for that particular reason because I understand the industry right now. They want more people. So obviously you have this challenge because you must be really, really good at what you do and people resonate with you, which is great news. And they know that you'll find other people. So I would say absolutely, if that's a beautiful challenge you have, you already done the hard part. You've already become a consultant yourself, incorporated yourself. And the next steps are to create an agency is just making sure you've got the proper, agreements with the subcontractors that you have, a different level of personal liability insurance that you will need to cover in order to get with to have coverage for those subcontractors. And then, as we talked about saving for a rainy day as a consultant, when you don't have potentially back-to-back contracts, when you're a potential agency owner, even if it is a smaller agency, you have to be aware that, and this has happened to me, clients may not pay, clients default. You still need to, as a good independent consultant, citizen, and leader, be able to cover the costs of the subcontractors that you have. So that is something in terms of a consideration that you have to then consider if you want to move into the agency level as well to cover them off.
Thank you for this reminder, Gurbir. I think that our discussion has inspired someone, and about, because she's asking, how can I do the transition? When can I move from employer to consultant? So what would be the advice you would give to her?
When you are ready. And ready doesn't mean you don't feel nervous. Ready doesn't mean you don't have imposter syndrome. Ready means that you've done your due diligence from a financial perspective, that in case you don't find your first contract right away, can you cover yourself while you're looking? From what do you want to do? You can't just be a consultant in strategy, as we talked about. What are the areas that you want to consult in and why? What do you bring to the table? What's in your toolbox? What do you offer? What industries do you want to consult in? So when I say you can do it right now, I think after you've done that professional soul searching and personal soul searching, you're ready. Is it going to be scary? 1,000%. The initial jump is so scary, but that's okay. When you're scared, that doesn't mean you're not competent. That means you're growing your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And we all know times we've been scared, and now we're not scared of those things because we've grown into them. And that's just an indication that you're trying something new, and we always need to try.
Thank you, Gurbir. So, did you notice that time is flying? Like it's almost 5 minutes before the end. So we do have maybe 2 or 3 minutes max. And maybe I'll accept one more question in respect to everybody's agenda. So there's something I want to ask you about that, Gerbir, is about the biggest misconception people have about being an independent consultant. What's your experience tells us about this?
There's a lot of them, but I think some of the main ones are, oh, it must be nice to be an independent consultant and make all that money with the hourly rate that you're getting, says the full-time corporate employee. They don't realize that that hourly rate, we have to take out our taxes, we have to take out our health care, we have to take out our retirement. Yes, it is more lucrative, but we also get paid more because we take on more risk. Our contract can end at any time. Even though
Yeah.
somebody gives you a 6-month contract, you're augmented staff. You are there because they need you to hit the ground running with the knowledge you have, because they don't have the corporate capabilities, but they also have the flexibility. And this is where we can't get upset as independent contractors to end your contract. And it's not personal. You've chosen that lifestyle. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions of, oh, they just make a lot of money and they get to tell people what to do, but we take on a lot more risk, hence why that's reflected in the hourly rate we charge, because we don't have even half of the foundations that, say, a corporate job would have, and we have to take that into consideration. So even though you get a 1-year contract, it's actually not a year. It could end at any time if a project ends, leadership changes, COVID happens. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions for people that have chosen not to be independents. They just assume we just make a ton of money and live a beautifully lavish life.
Thank you, Gurbir. And I do have one last question. But before, if you can tell us about, you remember you mentioned the names of some companies that could match a consultant with company looking for their services. Do you have some of the names of these companies that you can share with us on?
Yeah, so I would say Procom is one of the bigger companies that's really good. There's SI Systems, there's CompuServe, there's more boutique firms as well, like Optimus, SBR, which is a great firm in Toronto that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I think if you just kind of Google recruiting firms and be very purposeful when you contact them, that either, hey, I'm looking for full-time or contract. And then there's also full-time contract where that's not independent consulting, but you're typically covering off a maternity leave or you're covering off somebody that may be off due to personal reasons. So, and then they build a beautiful database for you and you connect with them and then they just connect you with their clients. There's a lot out there who are doing a lot of great work and making those connections.
One last question before we conclude, Gurbir, and this question is coming overseas, from Dubai.
Awesome.
So I knew that we are global, and looks like this webinar is becoming also international. So this is a question about she's transitioning from being a content creator to a CEO, means she's opening her own business. She's building the first GCC self-service influencer marketing platform, and her biggest challenge is transitioning. It's building for many months without any earning. You mentioned that at one point, Gurbir, this is one of the challenges. So she's in the middle. At times, she feels she wants to give up. She's a single mom of two. It reminded you a bit your situation. And I'm watching from Dubai. So she's asking for advice on this path.
Yeah.
It's a nice question to ask, but it needs lots of time, I guess, like maybe some mentoring and coaching. But go ahead, Gurbir.
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, congratulations on taking, that big step, and it's not easy. And yes, everyone needs money to survive. I think and I know we only have 2 minutes left, but I would say is don't give up, but also it's not a black and white solution. See if you can find part-time work or other work just to keep you and your finances at water level so you don't have that stress of, oh my God, I'm eating through my savings and so forth while you continue to work on this. A lot of the companies that are set up aren't just done easily. You have to go through the hardship. You have to have those moments of doubt. And I would say keep going, but also then pause and say, what can I do to mitigate the other stress of maybe financials, which I completely resonate with, being a single mother as well, and see if there's part-time work you can pick up or doing or slow down the other path so that you can kind of build that financial stability back up. So it's not one or the other, it's just balancing what you need most at what time and then moving on from there. I know that was very quick, but I hope that helps.
Yes, I'm sure that it helps. And if they have any additional questions or more specific one, they can reach out to us, Gurbir, at any point. So this brings us to the end of our session. I want to thank you again, Gurbir,
You.
for sharing your expertise and your experience with such honesty and again generosity. So if there's one message you would like to take away, what would it be for everyone listening to you?
Again, as we've been talking, Rula, the goal is not to choose. There's no choice. The goal is to do what's right for you based on your personal, professional goals, obligations, opportunities. And if you choose one now, that might change later. So be fluid and be open. It's to
Yeah.
build a career, not to choose corporate versus independent consulting. Is to build a career that you're proud of, that satisfies you, and helps you bring your personal goals to fruition, whatever that may be. And just thank you again, Rula. Thank you to everyone that has taken their time to listen to us. And thank you to Women in Tech in Canada. It's been an honor.
Thank you very much, Gurbir. I have some lesson learned also that our career is not a label; it's a journey. So we hope this conversation helps us all reflect, explore, and feel empowered in our next step. Thank you very much, Gurbir. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, for being on the call.
Bye, everyone.